in the air to left field. Back at the track at the wall, we are tied.
Look at this. He's I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Armstrong with a big leg. Over for the cover. It's over. Unbelievable.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone. Awesome. He got it. The starter. Mike Tyson in. Austin is the champion. Stone Cold. Stone Cold. Stone Cold. Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back in.
Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Oh my God, no! Mankind did it! Nick Foley did it! No! Stone Cold did it! Mankind has achieved his dream and the dream of everyone else who's been told you can't do it! No! You can't do it! You can't do it! No matter what, got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Welcome to Primetime Wrestling. No, but welcome to WWE WAR on the North-South Connection Podcast Network. Whether you're here audibly or visually, if you're listening to this on any podcast network, you can also find us now on YouTube at North-South Connection if you search that. And this is airing in video format if you prefer that. Be sure to check it out, and vice versa. If you're watching on video, but you're going to hop in the car and want to listen, you can also follow us on any podcatcher app. Marcus, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Right off the rip, do you have a favorite episode of Primetime?
Oh God. I'm like stupidly into the live audience ones because that's really like heavy prime time when I was watching that era. So I like a lot of my memories. I feel like that actually has I won't say they're the best, but I feel like they have the most memorable segments in prime time were generally happened during that stretch. I think because all the live guests. I mean, Flair's debut was on that one. That was a big one. I love the one later with the round table with perfect turns, obviously, and Joint Savage. I always like the Halloween ones when Gorilla and Bobby would dress up. But how about you?
One word. Quake burgers.
There you go. That was in the live audience.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Absolutely.
Not Big Billy Busick when he was picking on the kids in the crowd.
No, I do really like when Rude and it's Rude and Piper going back and forth. That's a good one too. But
yep. The summer of '89 prime times are so good. Prime time's like my big binge thing. Like late at night, passing out, in and out, or recording shows. Sometimes I'll throw them on in the background. So I've been through the whole run on Peacock probably 3 or 4 times from '86 through whatever's on there, '89. But summer of '89, they are loaded. They there's a stretch of episodes where every segment is they're showing something big happening, and they show big matches like the Brainbusters Demolition title change, all that stuff is in there in full. It's just such a busy summer, and they show all of it. So if you're light on 1989 WWF knowledge, if you just watch those prime times, you pick up just about everything that's going on.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah. All right, well, let's dive in here to this podcast. It's a very nerd level sabermetric style look at every WWE pay-per-view ever. We're doing this in a season format. So we start with the first pay-per-view following WrestleMania in any given calendar year, and it ends with the following year's WrestleMania. So for this season, we started with the first show after WrestleMania, which was Extreme Rules 2015, and it's going to end with the beloved WrestleMania 32. and on and on. So we've been through, quite a few seasons. I guess we can rip those off real quick here, Marcus, because again, we might have some new followers here since we're diving into the YouTube format. We've done 1985-86. We've done 1994-95. We have done 1999-2000. We've done 2004-2005, 2011-2012, and 2018 through 2019 NXT as its own season. So that's everything we've accomplished so far. The NXT season is our highest average score, as you would imagine. But yeah, we're going through every pay-per-view from a season. We're going to break it down in a series of categories that includes giving match grades, and then we average those out. What we do is each category gets a total score plus minus system. So if you consider what we consider to be like kind of replacement level is the most basic anything you can get, right? So that's a 0. Anything that's better than what you would just expect to be just a average thing gets a point. If it's worse than average, gets a minus. We net all that out and give it a total score. Marcus, you want to quickly just read the categories that we grade in?
Yep, absolutely. First, we start off with build, followed up by commentary, the atmosphere of the event, notable moments and importance, match grades, which you talked about, card structure, rewatchability, and all-time matches. And for us, an all-time match is anything that we both agree is 4.25 or above for a plus, or for a minus, it is 0.75 and below.
Correct. And rewatchability, we try and avoid like matches because that's already covered in the match grades or all-time matches. So rewatchability for us is just something that may not be a notable moment, a historical moment, but it's something that like it would be worth going back to rewatch the show to see this, like a goofy segment, a funny moment, something like that. That was like or a big spot in a match. Exactly. So it may not be notable, but it was worth like throwing on just to relive that spot. So for our match grades, basically you give every match a grade, I give every match a grade. We take the average. So if I give something a 3.25, you give it a 3.5. We take the average of that. We take that average score, and then we do a plus minus from 2.5. We consider 2.5 to be an average match. So if our combined grade is a 4, that's 1.5 higher than the average, right? So that gets a plus 1.5. If we give something a 1, it's minus 1.5. So, and then we just kind of add all those up to get our total score. So we'll show you that in a minute. Every episode we do 2 pay-per-views. And why don't we go ahead and dive right into our first one, buddy? It's Night of Champions 2015. Took place on September 20th from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. 14,369. I'm not getting into the buys since we're on the network now. We had Michael Jerry Lawler and John Bradshaw Layfield in the booth. We had a dark match, or I'm guessing a pre-show match, right, on the network. Stardust and the Ascension defeated Neville and the Lucha Dragons. And then we can get right into the show. So our opening match was for the Intercontinental title. That is Kevin Owens defeating Ryback to win the belt. And that match went just under 10 minutes. And I gave that a 3, Marcus. What did you think of that one?
I went with a 3 as well. Yeah, that's really all I got. Big win for Owens, but that's really it. Ryback's really cooled off where he was from earlier in the season.
Yeah, and I think Owens getting the IC title made sense too. Because it feels like coming off the Cena thing, it's like, all right, well, what do you do? He had that match with Cesaro that we both liked quite a bit at SummerSlam. But it's kind of like, okay, now what? Right? Like he's not quite in the main event picture yet. It's almost like they hot-shotted him so high up the card. It's like, what do you do? So I think making him the torchbearer of the IC division for a bit would be a good way to kind of reestablish him and also elevate the IC belt, given how they presented him.
Yep. Next up, we've got Dolph Ziggler taking on Rusev. It feels like we've seen these guys go at it like 5 times so far this season, but the work is solid enough. I went 3.25.
Yeah, the match is fine. It's just the storyline is so silly with the Lana and Summer Rae stuff. Just kind of gets boring, and not even boring. It's just kind of insipid. It's like, we all know the reason, right, behind the scenes for it, that we're trying to get in between Rusev and Lana, so they kind of break them up on screen, blah blah blah. So yeah, while the chemistry in the in-ring is there, the story's kind of frustrating, and you almost feel bad for Summer Rae because like they're finally giving her a chance to do something, and it's not putting her like in a position where it's going to be any kind of success probably. So I went 3.25. Like again, it's fine, but yeah. All right, next up was our tag title match: the Dudley Boys taking on the New Day. The Dudleys actually win, but do not win the titles, so they win by DQ. So that's just under 10 minutes as well. What did you think of seeing the Dudley Boys back here?
I thought it was an interesting way to bring them back. They still had a little bit of run in them, and I thought this was a good time to kind of use them in this fall part of this fall portion of the season. Kind of, I don't know, spice things up a little bit, but just make it something different from primetime players or
Hmm.
any of the other tag teams we've seen so far this season.
Yeah.
And they're being brought back as legends that can still go, but they're very, very much acknowledging like, hey, these guys are, their best years are 15 years behind them.
Right.
But
They're doing
can
the
they still
Rocky
get it done?
Balboa and Rocky Balboa
Yeah,
story, right? They're not trying to present them as like they can still go. They might be able to still duke it out and steal a win. They're brawlers, but yeah, they're not on the level of New Day.
right.
So
Yeah.
all right. So what's up next?
I went 2.75 on that match. What was your
Okay,
grade?
I'm sorry. Yes, same.
Yeah, pretty good considering it had Bubba Ray Dudley in it. That's quite the.
That's fine. I mean, look, under 10 minutes, they're just gonna hit their spots, right? And New Day is
Yeah.
entertaining enough that they can carry it. So, I mean, do I want to see this big extended feud or run with them? I don't know, but for like 1 or 2 pay-per-views, when you're trying to establish New Day as threats, like it worked.
I like Devon. Next up, we've got for the Divas title, it is Charlotte Flair winning her first championship by defeating Nikki Bella as Nikki's long reign comes to an end. I thought this was pretty good. I went with 3.25.
Yeah, same for me. Just over 12 minutes. It's obviously a really big moment on 2 levels, right? Charlotte winning her first title is a big deal, and Nikki's reign ending. I mean, did you mark down how long it went?
I didn't. It was definitely over 200 days, though.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up real quick and see here. It was, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to try and find it. You're right. I mean, it was real long, and it was a heavy part of her angle and story. So it was definitely a really big, title change in both regards. And of course, I don't know if we knew at the time how important Charlotte winning the belt for the first time would be. I think we all kind of had a feeling she was going to end up being, obviously one of the best of all time. But it's a pretty big moment when she captures that. So yeah, looking back, Nikki had it for 301 days.
Wow.
And Charlotte will be the last Divas Championship holder because the belt merges. So,
spoiler for WrestleMania.
all right, so 3 1/4 for both of us there. Next up, we have 6-man tag action as Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Chris Jericho. So a night of returns for us here.
Yeah.
Jericho's back, and they take on the Wyatt family. The Wyatt family wins the match. They kind of sowed some seeds for like a Jericho heel turn perhaps in here too, because there's some like miscommunication, and Jericho kind of leaves without any like camaraderie or talking. So they kind of looks like there's a little bit of a falling out between those 2 teams. At the time, like I don't know if we knew if it was a Jericho kind of a one night only thing. I think by the way he acts, it seems like he's probably going to stick around for a while. I'll be honest with you. I can never keep track of these Jericho runs. Like when he pops up on these shows, I'm usually surprised. I'm like, oh, this is that run. Like I can never remember when he leaves and comes back because I know it's like 3 or 4, like at least 2 or 3 times. I think post that 08 run where he leaves and then shows back up just randomly before eventually going to AEW. So again, I think the match was pretty good. Like I went 3 3/4. I'm really into anything Shield and Wyatt's, like dating back years at this point. And we've talked about like how this made a lot of sense for them to try and get Reigns in a better place by having him team with Ambrose and kind of take some of his, I don't say his heat, but like get the fans on Reigns' side through Ambrose by having them be buddies as Ambrose is so over. So I think that plays a role in this match too, where Reigns is finally kind of on a pure face side.
Yeah, I'm good with the Jericho comebacks up until 2012. Anything after that, I'm out. I went 3.5. I thought it was a really good match. It feels like Jericho during this time, like with all these comebacks, he always gets like plenty of time for his matches, like 20 plus. But at this stage, if I have to take like Jericho, I want him mixed in with like established talent as well to kind of make it a little bit more palatable. So that being said, I thought it was a pretty good 6-man tag. Anytime you've got Reigns and Ambrose and the Wyatt family in there, it's always good stuff. That takes us to our U.S. title match of John Cena versus Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins.
Yeah, weird stuff here.
Hmm.
We'll talk about it later. As far as the match, I went 4.25. I think it's about as good as a follow-up as you can have to the classic that they had at SummerSlam without like a dramatic fall off. So, really good match, but it was just weird that commentary did not really mention or make reference to the SummerSlam match at all. So it's almost like if you didn't see SummerSlam, it's like they're meeting for the first time. Like they didn't play it off as like, oh, this is match 2. And maybe that's because they had no plans on doing match 3.
Right.
Even though I guess this would be match 3 because match 1 would have been the nose breaker. But yeah, I don't know. 4.25, so still all-time match for me.
Yeah, 4.25 for me as well. So that makes it an all-timer on our metrics when we get to the counting stats later. And I agree. Like I think it's probably as good as they could have possibly done. Like it's just a notch below SummerSlam grade-wise for me. Yeah, I don't know. You think the Stewart stuff they were like trying to distance themselves maybe from that or something, or I don't know why they didn't play it up strongly as a rematch. They really focused just on Rollins kind of getting put in the tough spot by the Authority by having to defend 2 titles or whatever.
I wonder if it's so Owens' big push has been he beat John Cena on his first night. And I wonder if they don't want somebody else running around saying that, hey, maybe. I beat John Cena this year too. God forbid John Cena have more than one loss to somebody during the year, but that's the only thing I can think of.
It had to be something weird like that. It was either that or the Stewart stuff, or maybe the way they're going to start positioning Rollins differently or something. They didn't want it tied to that. I'm not sure. But Cena wins the U.S. title, so you can assume we're going back to the open challenge from here, as that was his big thing earlier in the year. I think it's fine. Like you weren't going to keep both belts on Rollins anyway, long term. So like getting it off him, and just like we talk with Owens, like you look at our 2 second-tier champions right now. It's Kevin Owens and John Cena. Like it's pretty good. Yeah. Like we're elite level stuff with all of our champions right now at the moment. So I think that made a lot of sense. But Rollins' night wasn't done. So he had to wrestle twice. The Authority was really kind of putting him to the test. He had to defend his U.S. title against Cena and his WWE World title against Sting.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Sting's, I guess, only his second. It's the second and final WWE match ever. No. He had appeared at Survivor Series. Obviously, that was his debut the year before. Lost to Triple H at Mania and loses here. So he finishes 0-2. But this, I've always liked this match.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed it. And of course, it's very infamous because it's the match where Rollins pretty much was thought to have ended Sting's career. He ends up obviously coming back to wrestle in AEW years later, but he hits him with the buckle bomb, messes up Sting's neck pretty good, and puts him on the shelf. So I didn't go super high, went 3.5, but it's always been kind of a guilty pleasure match for me. I've always really dug this. I thought it showed that Sting could still work, and Rollins did a good job working with him until the splat.
Yeah, you've coined a phrase. I forget which podcast it was on, but it's rolling off the couch. Like Sting rolls off the couch and keeps pace with 2015 Seth Rollins.
It's crazy.
It is absolutely insane. I went 3.25 for Big Steve and Seth Rollins. Yeah, the buckle bomb. I think they did it twice. There was 2 buckle bombs, and the first one I think was like iffy enough, and then the second one is like the one that really did it. Man, the fact that Sting went 0-2 just makes me sad now. And Sting's in really good shape. Like you kind of think like he's an old man, but like he's in pretty good shape. They could have strapped him up.
You have to wonder too, like if Rollins doesn't hurt him, did they have plans to keep using him, or was this always going to kind of be it, right?
You got to use Sting. You can't just like not use. But then like they would like have him randomly backstage for like legends and like not bring him out, and like he's.
Well, I think he couldn't wrestle anymore. I think he was like. Yeah. I think after that, the thought was we're done. Even if he was okay, I think they were like they probably didn't want to take the chance of like hurting him more or something like something like that. It was a stupid move to try with him. I mean, I know Rollins catches a lot of shit. He had injured. He would go on to injure Balor next year, right? It's like the same move.
Yes, yeah.
And again, I don't know if either were really his fault per se.
No.
He shouldn't be doing this move to Sting. Like that's the problem. And then Balor, it was dumb to do it on the floor.
Yeah, I know Sting took a lot of the heat. Sting was like, I wanted to do it. Like I wanted to have a Seth Rollins match, and like, well, that's just Big Steve. Like that's what the big Stinger is going to do.
Yeah, let's do a regular power bomb. How about that? We don't need a buckle bomb.
Didn't need it. Right. So
okay, and we'll talk about the build to this in a minute too, because that's kind of a shit show. So
poor
3.5.
Sting.
So if you average our grades and then you go plus minus from the replacement level, it's a really strong 6.25 total grade. Now, if you listen to our last episode, SummerSlam was 10.25, but that's not the norm.
Right.
6.25 is very strong. Anything really for us like over 4 is usually a pretty good showing. So we're at that. We'll move over to our plus minus, and why don't we go ahead and dive into our categories? Let's start with build. So here are the pluses, things that we thought were better than average. Kevin Owens being all about the money, stalking gold, is consistent with his character. That's been that way since NXT, right? All he cares about is making money, feeding his family, being successful. So a point for that. A point for we didn't talk about this, but the homage videos throughout the night to all the champions. They usually do this at Night of Champions where, okay, it's an IC title match. So they'll show like all the legendary Intercontinental title holders throughout time, little video package before the match. So a point for that. A point for Nikki Bella's record reign building into this. A point for Charlotte chasing the belt with Ric Flair by her side to push her along. A point for the ongoing Shield versus Wyatt war that's been going since SummerSlam. And a point for Rollins being in the shine box, having to defend both titles against legends, put there by the Authority is tough love to prove himself. So that was a pretty good story heading in.
And for the minuses, we're a little light. We've got the never-ending Rusev Ziggler Summer Lana love storyline going on. And then we've got Sting's melting face paint after hiding in the box. That's a all-time memorable moment. And we got Ryback and The Secret. That was that book that they were attaching to Ryback, and he was saying it was kind of the source of his success and positive mindset and his accomplishments, in the new year. So I thought we both thought it was bad. And Owens kind of even makes fun of The Secret later on in the show, but a little light on the minuses, which is good.
Yeah, the Sting thing is rough. So he's hiding. The whole thing was like they were doing the old Cactus Jack guy in the box thing, right? So like Sting is under the box in the middle of the ring. They didn't account for his paint not coming off and like in the sweat. So they opened the box and like the paint's like pouring down his face. Remember that whole thing? It was like it was kind of a rough reveal for Sting on Raw.
Poor
and
Sting.
Then the Secret stuff is ridiculous. It's like, first of all, that whole concept. I had a friend of a friend who was like super into it, and it just never really clicked with me that you could just like want something bad enough to manifest it. Like I don't know the whole secret, but that's pretty much what it is, right? If you really want something hard enough and you will it into fruition, basically, that's the secret to success in life. And Ryback was a believer of the secret apparently, and he just gets, as we'll talk about in a minute, gets roasted on commentary. So like it didn't make him look tough or anything. It made him look stupid. The way they presented it, like they didn't say like, "Oh, this worked for this guy." Like this idiot believes in this. Is kind of how they presented it. So. All right, so that's a 3 for build. Let's get to commentary. It hasn't been our favorite team for sure this season, but we gave him a point for building up Owens well in the opener, a point for really selling Charlotte's big moment. Did a nice job with that. JBL and Cole had a lot of good banter about Rufio and Hook, so that was good. And then JBL putting over the Dudleys as well. So,
yeah, I thought JBL did really well talking about the Dudleys and making them seem like a threat. For our minuses, we've got the announcers being sarcastic about The Secret, just about as harsh as we are.
They best bury it. It's awful.
We got King says women should use a diary instead of Twitter for their thoughts. Oh my gosh, jeez, that's terrible.
Right, because and it was during he was talking about.
Oh my gosh!
I think it was like Charlotte and Nikki like arguing on Twitter to further the storyline is kind of why. So the context is even worse because you're like kind of shitting on the way they built the match by saying that versus saying not just saying it to say it. But
not too much longer left with the King. Continue to wear a low key conversational style and yuck approach to all the matches. We went with -2 there. We got Cole's giddiness over the Daily Show. Winning awards because Cena gave an AA to Jon Stewart. Commentary mostly ignoring the SummerSlam match between Rollins and Cena and making no references to it. That's it for our minuses.
Okay. So it's a -2 for commentary. Not a surprise. It's always usually a little low there. All right, atmosphere. We give a point for the show just being bigger by being in the Staples Center, like being in LA on a not a major pay-per-view event usually adds to the vibe because they always show the stars and all that different stuff. So that feels bigger. Really big pop for Ryback.
Sorry, that one's for that was meant for Hell in a Cell.
Oh, okay, yep.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So let's move it down. I have to fix the stats on the fly. I was gonna say I didn't think this was. I should have noticed that it was Houston, right? Yeah. All right, so we'll get to that one. All right, atmosphere. So big pop for Ryback to start the show. A monster pop for Owens, who's just in star mode right now after that feud with Cena. A crowd interaction with New Day and the trumpet chanting all match is good with Xavier playing the trumpet all the time. A great buzz for Charlotte's entrance. It feels like a big deal already. Of course, for me, it's always a point for the Wyatt entrance, which is iconic. A big pop for the Chris Jericho surprise reveal. The crowd is red hot through Cena Rollins, so a point for that. And then a point for them being really into Sting as well.
How can you not be into Sting? Does anybody not really like Sting?
I don't know,
man. I love Sting. To get to the minuses, we've got the crowd booing President Obama, and we got the plain set. Of course, we're definitely in the HD set for everything era. Crowd not really into the Dudleys. Again, hard to blame them.
Right.
And Mountain Dew everywhere. Tons of Mountain Dew product placement throughout the night. Unnaturally so.
Oh, they love the Mountain Dew. They love it. And poor King with the heart attack. Chugging that Mountain Dew down like it's going out of style.
Do you like Mountain Dew?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I don't drink it as much. I guess it's not that I buy a lot of, but I would say it's right behind. If I had to really stack rank my top, so it is Dr. Pepper, Cherry Coke, Mountain Dew.
Okay. It's high praise.
How about you?
Classic Coke number 1, Vanilla Coke number 2, Cherry Coke number 3, Root Beer number 4.
Root beer is good. It
Ginger ale number
which
5.
Root beer though? What's your favorite root beer?
I gotta go A&W.
Yeah, probably A&W. A&W draft. Like, did you have an A&W? Do you have A&Ws down there?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. So like the A&W off like the tap at A&W is like the best.
Yeah, undefeated.
Yeah, I think it's better than Barks. Do you remember Ramblin' root beer?
No, I don't.
That was like when I was like a kid.
Shoot,
that was like a big root beer.
I gotta find some on eBay.
It was good. I think I got the name right. I think it's Ramblin'. I'm rambling. But yeah, so I like Mountain Dew. I remember when I got started school, went to college in the cafeteria, they had Mellow Yellow on the soda tap, and I just like went to town on that shit. I get like 3 of those fucking things a meal. Like, wait a minute, I just get as much Mellow Yellow as I want.
I remember when the 7-Eleven down the street got some Mellow Yellow, and it was on.
Yeah,
it was on.
That's good. I don't like Mountain Dew in the bottle as much. I'll say that. That's another one that's better. Like there's certain restaurants I go to that is no like I'm gonna get a Mountain Dew when I go in there because it's like it just tastes good off the gun in the glass or whatever. Like if you gave me a bottle of Mountain Dew, I'm not as excited about it. Whereas if you gave me a glass of it off the gun, yeah.
Oh, anyway. It matters.
It does matter. All right. So where are we at? That was atmosphere. We give a 4. Here's notable moments and importance. So we give a point for Kevin Owens winning the IC title, a point for the Dudley Boys making their return to pay-per-view, a point for the New Day act kind of finalized on pay-per-view. It's like we're officially New Day. 2 points for Charlotte winning her first women's title. Obviously, that's super important. She's like the greatest female star they've probably ever had. So her really making her first big pay-per-view win makes sense there. The point for the ending of Nikki Bella's 301-day reign, a point for Chris Jericho's return to the promotion, a point for Sting having his first ever WWE title match, a point for John Cena winning the U.S. title for the 5th time. So I'll tell you, one thing we've noticed on this season has been, or this era, there's usually less moments overall. But this show had some, so that's good.
Yeah. For our minuses, we've got Sting almost dying, but we gave that a -2. Return of Demon Kane. Too much Kane. As somebody who absolutely loves the Kane character,
too much Kane.
This is just too much, man. He just doesn't look like Kane either. Like it feels like somebody's dad playing Kane. It feels weird. It makes me nervous, as you like to say.
It's just been too much of him.
Yeah.
Like overall,
And like, what's the threat if he's not going to win? Like, I feel like we've been like teasing this whole Kane thing all season, but like, is Kane going to be your champion in 2015? No.
Yeah.
So like, why so much Kane?
It's completely, of all the things that you could argue, like, people crap on Rollins or whatever else, but like, of all the things you could argue about his reign, like Kane being so friggin' heavily involved to me is like what killed it. I mean, I think that hurt it more than anything.
I mean, he's in a match with Kane when he blows out his knee.
Yeah.
In a couple months. So like, even a couple months, we're still doing Rollins versus Kane.
It's been his whole reign. He's been involved with Kane. Our producer Tim was kind enough to link us to Ramblin' Root Beer in our little chat here, so you can check out the sleek packaging. All right, so that's a 6 for notable moments. We talked about a 6 1/4 for match grades. Card structure, we give it a point for starting with 2 really over stars with Ryback and Owens. And then match stacking, a point for that. There's no downtime. It's match. That's pretty consistent throughout the season. There's a lot of like the ad stuff, but a lot less of like skits and backstage shit. It's all just match after match, usually on these cards. And then a point for stacking the 2 Rollins matches on top instead of splitting them up. They could have very easily done like Rollins Cena to open and Rollins Sting at the end.
Yeah.
But I think it told the story better by making him have to go back to back. And him winning the second one actually makes him look kind of strong. Like he overcame 2 long matches to at least retain his world title.
The first time Seth Rollins is allowed to look strong all season, it's against Sting.
Yes.
Hate it. For our minuses, we've got a weak DQ on the tag title match right after the fluky finish to the Rusev and Ziggler match. Neville being stuck on the pre-show and just kind of like the cock tease of the cash-in being ruined by Kane. I don't care if it's like a baby face or a heel ruining the cash-in. People want to see the cash-in because it's a cool thing and it's like history being made. So anytime anybody ruins that, it's never good.
All right. So for card structure, that puts us at a 0 net out there. Rewatchability, we give a point for New Day's Save the Tables promo before the match, which was really good. Talk about how obviously don't destroy the tables, don't let the New Day put them through tables. We also give a point for Xavier going wild at ringside all match with the trombone. Excuse me. You can hear him yelling on commentary, even pops in. Says the Dudley Boys ain't even brothers, which is funny. He's playing the Rocky theme on the trombone, which is fantastic. A point for Charlotte's win in celebration. That's worth a rewatch. Like, it's such an emotional moment. A point for Cena hitting the AA on the floor, which is just a great spot. A point for Flair choking up and trying to do a shtick after the match after Charlotte wins, but he's completely just like melting down in tears. He can't do it, but he's trying to gut through. And then a point for Rollins going back-to-back and Sting having a world title match. We don't often do matches, but like just the novelty of a Sting WWE world title match is worth a rewatch.
Absolutely. Should have went +5 there. For our minuses, we've got a dumb finish to a good match with Summer and Rusev's hijinks continuing, and then the Sting buckle bomb and him collapsing is a bummer.
So that's a 4. For rewatchability, we had one all-time match on the positive side. That's John Cena versus Seth Rollins, so point there. And Marcus, that nets us out to 22 1/4. So
that's high praise.
That is a very strong showing for the show here, especially in this season, which, again, doesn't always deliver consistently high shows. So as of right now, that is our 13th ranked show overall. It's actually in a 3-way tie with NXT TakeOver Chicago 2 and No Way Out 2000. Our tiebreaker metric takes the best match and ranks them that way. So most people may have the Cactus Jack Hell in a Cell maybe as a high, but we were actually kind of low on that, mainly thanks to your 2.
Yeah.
So that's the third of the shows in here. Night of Champions spots in between it is a rough grade. And TakeOver Chicago 2 is at the top of that list because that obviously I didn't even go back and look, but I'm confident TakeOver probably had the best match. Let's look real quick.
Probably.
That was like Ciampa. Yeah. So
not by my grade.
No, actually.
Did I sabotage it again?
You did. We got to move it up. All right. So Night of Champions is actually ahead of TakeOver Chicago 2. So that is our now 12th best show.
Yeah, baby.
And that is on the back of Cena Rollins, of course. So that puts it there. So any final thoughts on Night of Champions before we close that out?
Sneaky good sprint. It was just like kind of like good match after good match after good match, and then of course we have like the high point with Rollins Cena. So, yeah, that's it. It was surprisingly really good.
What's Chris Berman doing? We could probably get him to do a tag for us for this.
Boom. And we give him some do's.
Is there anything more summer than you're outside, you're playing, you come inside, it's like 7:30 at night or whatever, maybe take a quick shower, grab a glass of lemonade, smell of fresh cut grass in the air, jump on the couch or your bed as a kid and fire up Sunday Night Baseball. That theme, hits, or Baseball Tonight theme hits into Sunday Night Baseball.
Yep.
That's summer right there.
It's Americana. Infallible.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Hell in a Cell 2015. It's our next show here. This one took place at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, October 25th, 17,505. Same commentary triumvirate of Cole, Lawler, and JBL. We had a pre-show match of Dolph Ziggler. Listen to the talent in this friggin' pre-show match. Dolph Ziggler, Cesaro, and Neville taking on Rusev, Sheamus, and King Barrett in a 6-man tag. Gets 12 minutes on the pre-show. The Faces win. I think we're seeing the early birth of the League of Nations. I don't know if they were official yet, but they're starting to come together there. So anyway. That
and the kickoff era, like we're definitely in the Mountain Dew kickoff era of these live events where like, I'm curious when we're gonna get to it. It's gonna be like one of the 17 or 18 seasons, but like I think Usos and New Day have a match on there, and like it's the best thing all night. So yeah, kind of wild to see the talent in that match, but that's just where we're at in 2015.
Yeah, the pre-show kickoff show. I mean, I used to always argue, like, with the network, it doesn't really matter. Like, everyone would always get it up in arms, right? Like, oh, they're on the pre-show. But really, with the network, like, the pre-show, are you drinking the Audad blood?
I might be.
It looks like it. On the network era, like, it was kind of like it's all the same. It gets archived the same. Like, it's all on there. So it was kind of like whatever. It's not like it was on TV Guide like the old days,
Yeah.
All right, so our opening match features another big return. We're in a little stretch of returns here. And that is Alberto Del Rio answering the open challenge of John Cena for the U.S. title. And he's also accompanied by Uncle Zeb, Zeb Coulter, who leads him out. He's in a Rascal. Was he in the Rascal with Swagger too? I didn't remember the Rascal.
I think towards the end he was, yeah. I can't remember what happened, but yeah. I think he broke his leg. I think he broke his leg in real life, and they like made it part of the thing. Sense. But yeah, I think he just kind of kept it like Cowboy Bob's cast.
This is such a stupid pairing. I didn't get it. Like, it's like Del Rio couldn't talk. Like, we had years of him talking, and he was fine, especially as a heel. Zeb is like been Mr. Patriot, MAGA before MAGA guy, right? I mean, that was his whole thing, right? So with Swagger, and so I know they do this whole Mexicana stuff or whatever, but I was pre like being a drug mule and ruining Paige's life. Del Rio, like, I actually liked quite a bit, both in ring and as a character. So I was actually excited when he came back here. I've always kind of been a mark for him. Not so much after all that happened, but at the time. So this is actually a pretty cool return. And he beat Cena for the U.S. title, which is, I would say, like a huge surprise. It only goes 8 minutes, and he beats him clean. So like this is pretty shocking, I thought at the time. It was a good return, and the way they went about it, obviously clearly serious about Del Rio. But what did you think of this pairing and the surprise?
Guilty pleasure pairing. Like, it makes no sense. There's no need for it. But I irrationally love the pairing of Zeb Coulter and
Zeb's a good talker. Like, put him with guys who can't talk. That's the thing.
I know. I agree with that. I agree with all that. But like, I guess there's a level of nuance that WWE can't or won't get into, where like that pairing actually could have been really interesting, and you could have like dove into like Okay, like you have Del Rio, who's he's Mexican American, but he's also like greedy, and he's he's a dirty businessman. And you have Zeb, who's all about opportunity, but he's also about like the almighty dollar. Like I think there's something there that we're just not going to get to explore in 2015 WWE.
Right.
I'm a mark for people leaving for a little bit and then coming back in the best shape of their life. They've been eating nothing but chicken and rice and gotten a good handful of candy. Del Rio looked amazing here. I went 0.275 as well for the match. Quick, it was in and out. It felt like John Cena had something more important to go to.
Right, yeah. Well, you think he had the 2 matches in one night or something, the way they did this.
Right. No, I feel like John Cena had to like get to a wedding or something. I don't know, but yeah. Cena's in and out and he drops the US title. And I think he's going to be gone for a bit too, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, for a while, right?
I think so, yeah. I don't think we're going to see him again till our season finale.
But that takes us to... Does he wrestle, right? He doesn't wrestle there. So is he?
No, he doesn't.
Is he hurt?
Yeah, I think he's hurt. Yeah, I can't remember what he hurt though.
So that's why they make this so quick. Yeah, the real quick on Zeb too. Like I feel like he could have been a good fit in NXT at this time to like help some of the young guys who couldn't talk, maybe like versus on the main roster where he probably wasn't needed as much.
That's a good point. Yeah, especially just helping people out like behind the scenes too with promos and could have used his booking for a couple angles there too. He's a good idea, man. That takes us to our first namesake match of the evening, as it is a Hell in a Cell match between Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt. I went 4.5. I think for the WWE Hell in a Cell match that you're going to get in 2015, I think this is on par with just about any great cell match that's happened post-PG era. I thought they really did a good job of trying to capture the brutality and the punishment aspect of Hell in a Cell. I thought the cell itself was kind of a star of the match. They do use some other weapons, but the cell was treated as an equalizer and an equal star of the match as well. And Reigns looks really tough in this match too, which we've kind of pointed out all season. Like when he gets his best reactions, it's when he's walking tall. And he does that in this match. So Reigns picks up the win, 4.5 for me. I think you're on mute, pal.
How about now? Better now? I made 2 great points. So I went 4 on this. I think it's a great match. I did not see this coming at all. I did not remember this match. Completely caught me off guard with how invested I got in it. And it really makes you wonder, like, I don't know if the crowd is even super into him, but man, they hit on something with Reigns in this little stretch here, post Mania with the cash-in stuff. To here is like been a really good run. Like he had the Big Show match. He's got the stuff with Ambrose. He's got this. Like there's been a lot of good stuff from him in this stretch. We'll see how it goes. Like as we head toward Mania at the end of the season, but I think after that he's still pretty good in 16. Right? It's not like what's his down years? Like 17, 18. I think is kind of his when the kind of some of his bad stuff. Right? I don't think he even ever has like bad.
I don't think it's bad. Yeah, he's very high in my GWE ranking. I think some of the booking around him is a little iffy, but I think he personally is one of the best I've ever had.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like they didn't do him any favors by having him be the next Cena where the crowd hates him and they don't care and they just keep pushing him as top face. But that said, is this bloodline stuff as good if they didn't do that? So it's almost like they made a sacrifice a couple of years of just like the crowd just being so angry to set this up, which has been obviously great. So I don't know if he has this awesome heel run if he's already a heel before during this stretch.
No, I don't think so.
All right, we got a rematch next, and that is the tag team titles. The New Day defeat the Dudley Boys this time. 2 3/4 for me. Pretty much right in line. I have it as the same grade as last time. Like it's whatever. Like it's kind of a rinse repeat under 9 minutes again. So it was fine.
Yep. Same for me. Exactly 2 3/4.
Right.
That takes us to our Divas match as for the Divas title, as Charlotte is defending against Nikki in the return match from Night of Champions. I went 3 1/4 as well for this match. Really good work. We're very quickly seeing Charlotte become the finished product that we would kind of get up until her first really big hiatus in like 2020.
Yep.
So that was kind of really cool to see. But that was my only real takeaway from this match.
Okay. Yeah, I went 3.5. I mean, I liked it actually better than the last one. Made a little nerves in the last one that weren't there this time, with it being kind of the end of the run, beginning of the run. Charlotte's kind of coming more into her own too, month by month. So this was pretty good. So 3.5 for me. You could already see the injection that these ladies have brought from NXT into the main roster, right? Like now we're constantly churning out matches that are plus 3 stars, which there weren't a ton of before this. So that's really good. All right. Next up, we have our world title match. So third from the top here. Seth Rollins' reign continues to be on life support as he takes on Kane. We talked about this feud already a bunch. Look, I went 3. I mean, it's fine. Like, Kane can still kind of have matches. We've seen this before with different guys, whether it's Benoit or Angle or whoever, where he kind of can get pulled up a little bit. So I don't think this went to that level, but it was still pretty solid. As part of the stipulation, since Demon Kane lost the match, Corporate Kane is fired as director of operations, and that's a line I never want to have to say again. But he is now done, thankfully, as director of operations. So Corporate Kane is put back in the box. So Rollins limps on as champion.
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm the bottom man here. What the 2.75 for me though. I agree with everything you said. It's one of those matches that we've seen in other seasons where Kane kind of gets brought up a little bit by being in there with a quote unquote solid hand. Yeah, thankfully we're done, I think, with the fired stuff or feeling bad about dad losing his job.
Yes.
Our next match is for the Intercontinental title. It's another return match from the Night of Champions pay-per-view as Kevin Owens successfully defends against the Ryback. I went 2.5. Pretty straightforward wrestling match. Nothing really super special. This is like we talked about. This is replacement level.
Yeah. Under 6 minutes. It's like this was kind of like, why even bother? I guess you had to get Owens on the show, but this felt completely jammed in. I went 2.5 as well. Just an average match, and it really just kind of puts a pin in Ryback's push for now. So Owens reigns on as champion.
All right, and JT, that takes us to our main event of the evening. It's our second Hell in a Cell match, as it is Brock Lesnar taking on The Undertaker. And this is, of course, wrapping up their feud that's been going on since 2014. They did a big hype video talking about, Brock beating Undertaker back at WrestleMania 30. And then Undertaker coming back at Battleground, I believe it was, to cost Lesnar against Seth Rollins. We had the SummerSlam match. And, of course, now we're here, Hell in a Cell. So I like this match a whole lot more than I thought I would. I remember when I watched it at the time, it was even better than I thought. That said, it's just a tick below an all-time match for me, but I thought these two really brought it, so I went with a 4.
Yeah, I went 3 3/4. I gotta say, I was honestly a little disappointed. I thought the legend of this match was like, it's an all-time classic and better than SummerSlam. I like SummerSlam a little bit better. I think they're close to being on par. It just felt a little bit slower than expected. It's still great. I mean, look, 2015 Undertaker still having an almost 4-star match in the cell with Brock. Is him having these 2 matches is like, you never would have expected it at all for that to happen in any world. So it hits. It's I had to close the show, so it was really good. It's still really, really, really good. Just I was a little disappointed watching it. I thought the legend of it maybe oversold it a bit.
Yeah. And it helps that these guys also have, for me, what's a 5-star match from No Mercy 02. That cell match, like, that's absolutely nuts. So the fact they have another cell match, and it's definitely lesser than, but it's not dramatically lesser than. I think it speaks to their chemistry that they have.
All right, so let's get to our so that nets out to a 5 1/4. So again, another good, really good outing in ring for this season here. That's been pretty consistent for sure. All right, let's get to our plus minuses. Get to build. We give a point for the Wyatt's Shield War with Wyatt torturing Reigns. A point for the Dudleys still chasing New Day. Took out Xavier Woods at the table. A point for Rollins and Kane with a lot of time investment put into it. It was worth the payoff match. As much as we hated it, the build was still pretty good. A point for the long-term Lesnar-Taker build leading to a huge blow event. It even kind of ties into their original Cell match back in 2022. I mean, 2002.
Yeah. All right, for our minuses, we've got leaning on the U.S. Open Challenge. Leads to no real build or feuds for contenders. A lot of reliance on rematches from Night of Champions as well for this event. We've got the Divas title match being a match that relies all on build from before Night of Champions. Never-ending authority drama. We talked about it. Will or won't Dad have a job at the end of the night? With Kane, Ryback, and Owens still really having no story other than the night being a Night of Champions rematch. So heavy night for rematches.
All right. So that brings it to a -1. Let's move on to commentary. We gave a point for Cole doing a pretty good job rehashing the Cena Del Rio history. That's it. Everything else was replacement level or worse. Didn't really add much else to the show.
Yeah, I felt like they had somewhere else to go to. For our minuses, we've got King saying, quote, that should have knocked out a bull moose, which is stupid. We've got Cole having to constantly
Makes no sense. What does that even mean?
It was like something Jim Ross would have said, but Jim Ross would have had a certain
cool
charm
moose,
to it.
Political party, if nothing else.
Cole having to constantly cover up, or not constantly having to over-explain things that King and JBL miss while they're yucking it up.
God, the yucking is so much of the yucking. So it's like King and JBL are lover toy or something. Okay, it's like they're trying to do the real kind of sports guy, chuckle fest, and then Cole, because they're missing stuff because they're doing that, he has to over explain it. Look at Rollins, he's going up top because that's where he goes. He's doing that while those two doofuses are cracking jokes at each other because he's trying to get them to pay attention or make sure everyone else is seeing what's happening. So it just leads to a real bad overall product. All right, so -1 for commentary, which is, in the end, probably not as bad as it should have been. Atmosphere, we give a point for the show feeling bigger by being in the Staples Center. Everything feels bigger in LA. We give a point for the big Cena entrance to open the show. A point for the celebrities in the crowd. A point for the big pop for Del Rio. A point for the pink ropes for October. I know there's thoughts back and forth on Susan Komen and those types of places, organizations, and if they're the right ones to be partnered with when it comes to stuff like breast cancer awareness. But I will say, for the October pay-per-views and TV for this mid-2010s, I instantly think it pops in my head. When I think of the show, I think pink ropes still real. It's a real strong visual. So it does add a memorable feel to the show. A point for the Wyatt entrance as he stalks through the cell, though the fireflies around him. A point for the lit crowd during the Reigns Wyatt match. Just awesome in that match. A point for Lesnar's entrance and a point for Undertaker's entrance. So there's a lot of strong atmosphere stuff on this show. Just the vibes and the feel really hit.
Yeah, and the only minus we have is the crowd seems a little bit burned out or uninterested in Owens and Ryback, which was definitely the down point of the night. So other than that, this was an awesome crowd.
So that's a +7 for atmosphere, which is very strong. All right. Notable moments and importance. We give a point for Del Rio and Uncle Zeb both returning. A point for Del Rio winning the U.S. title. A point for Reigns being cheered like a top face. A big moment in his growth. So if you leave this show, you're feeling good, right? If you're Vince, you're thinking, all right, let's go. And we'll see. We'll see by the next pay-per-view. That's where they were headed for sure in some ways. So they felt pretty good coming out of this one. A point for the death of Corporate Kane. Thank God. A point for a lot of blood on a 2015 pay-per-view. Not something you see a lot during this era, but we do get it here. A point for the thank you Taker ovation at the end of the show. And then a point for the attack that we didn't mention yet. So after Brock beats Undertaker, the Wyatt family attack and carry Taker off. So you would think something's coming there, right? Off of maybe the Mania stuff where Taker beat Bray. It seems like we're setting up some kind of Taker Wyatt feud.
Yeah. And our only minus is Kane, WWE title contender, and he is everywhere. So light night on the minuses so far. At least in that category as well.
So I went six. I went six. We went six on notable moments. So that's two big categories back to back. Layer on the match grades, 5.25, also big. And let's get to card structure. We start hot with Cena in a surprise return and title change. That's one. We give a point for a fine time to do a B-level title contender with a big match on top. So if you're going to blow off this Kane thing, now's probably the time to do it on this pay-per-view. And then a point for closing with Taker or Lesnar. You had to here.
Yep. For our minuses, we've got the cell match being second on the card. It's a little weird, either open or close, or running back to back. But we've also got Neville being still trapped in pre-show matches. It's been weird with him all season. He's either been in like the nap spot on the card, or he's been on the pre-show. Doctor having to keep stopping the action to help with the blood in the Hell in a Cell. It kills the flow early on. But that's it for minuses.
All right, so that is a -1 for card structure. For rewatchability, we have a point for Reigns spearing Wyatt through the table on the floor. That looked really good. A point for the New Day promo. He said Bubba. They said Bubba's a Caucasian Kamala. And then a point for Undertaker choke slamming and tombstoning Lesnar on the exposed wood. So that was the big part of the Hell in a Cell, where they pulled the mat apart and tombstoned him on the exposed wood.
Oh, I hate that spot. But for our minuses, we've got the never-ending stuff with the Authority and Kane. Hopefully, it's coming to a close here. We've got Charlotte and Nikki have a scary spot with the top rope tower suplex reversal, and also a Alabama slam on the edge of the apron. And I meant to note of it, like they must have been short on time or something, or gotten a go home cue like pretty quickly after that, because they wrap things up almost immediately after that. But it's not in like this was so punishing. Let's like take them. It's like,
right.
Let's get to the next spot. Like it's rushed.
Yeah. All right. So that is a 1 for rewatchability. We didn't have any all-time matches. And that brings us to a total score of 16.25. So I'm not going to say middle of the road, but it's closer to the middle than the top, I think, at that. So it ends up being our 24th all-time show. So pretty good. It's tied with Backlash 99, but it had the better match with the Reigns Wyatt Cell. So it finishes ahead of that. So, yeah, any final thoughts on Hell in a Cell? Surprising or feel right?
Kind of above our line of like what's a really good show compared to like what's an average show. It's right around there. I think like 15 is kind of where we're falling with like shows that are, kind of like a little bit forgettable. So yeah, this one it had two great cell matches, I thought. It's cool to see the elevation of Reigns and see him clicking and starting to fire on all cylinders. And we're also seeing Charlotte. So things look pretty promising heading into the late fall portion of our season. And we will cover that with our next episode.
Probably more promising than most falls. Like, I actually think the fall is usually a tough time. And I think these couple shows, like that Night of Champions may be one of the best September shows I've done. We'd have to go back and kind of look at our comps, but I think 04, right? That was the last season we did. Unforgiven was terrible. So it's like, it's September's usually kind of a down show. So we'll see how it tracks. But all right. Do you want to quickly do our top 10 since may have some new viewers here?
Yeah, let me get to it. All right, I'm ready.
All right, let's start things off with our 10th best show, which is SummerSlam 2011 with 23 points.
All right, then we've got Fully Loaded 1999 with a 26.25.
NXT TakeOver War Games 2 with 26.5.
NXT TakeOver New York with a 28.25.
Royal Rumble 2000, 28.5.
Money in the Bank 2011 with a 28.75.
WrestleMania 21, 33.5.
The SummerSlam 2015 with a 35.25.
Royal Rumble 2005 is our second best show of all time at 36.5.
And our number one show, the highly controversial SummerSlam 1999 with a unreachable possibly 38.25.
And as you can tell, like anything that's going to have just a lot of moments and atmosphere and all that kind of stuff is what's going to carry these shows. The ones that struggle that are really just either flatline, like nothing going on. Or if they're heavy in ring and not a lot of big moments and gagas, you'd think some of those NXT ones would be higher, but it's just match. So it doesn't really leave a lot of room for the other stuff to help carry it. All right, so we'll be back in 2 weeks, Marcus. We're going to do Survivor Series 2015 and TLC. So we'll wrap up the calendar year of 2015. Sure, check out everything we have to offer at the North South Connection. You can see it at northsouthconnection.com, which is the home for like all of our content. So if you go there, you'll see everything listed. And you can kind of pick and choose what you want to listen to. You can subscribe to us on any podcatcher app by looking up North South Connection, or subscribe subscribe to our YouTube channel, North South Connection. Follow that. You get all the video content that we'll be doing now. Social media, we're on Instagram, North South Connection Pod. We are on TikTok. Search North South Connection. Aaron started to do some wrestling figure reviews that are cool. Some other content there as well. And also Twitter. We're on there too at NoSo Pod Network. So lots to check out. We appreciate all of your support. Live your life above replacement level. And we will talk to you soon.